Look at that. That's what I came to help you look for. Nice.
It's nice. It's not too bad than I thought.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The billboard doesn't cave in.
This was the one album we were talking about, Bob wanted.
On the ride over here. Oh,
Yeah.
really? Yeah. Like, okay. It's great to tell me all that. So there you go. Easy peasy. Your day's done. Yeah. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Huh? Nathan.
Yeah, so far so good.
Can you do that or
I wish that these
Yeah, we did.
Yo, what's up? Bob here. Welcome to the Bob Bradley YouTube channel. As you can see from the top of the video, I went to a pop-up record show. We have a popular flea market here in town. It's on Market Street. It's called the Flea Off Market. They had a street festival of sorts with a record show in a local brewery here called Monarch Brewing Company. And they had all kinds of cool vendors on the street and a jazz band, you know, like some kids that are in the jazz band at school, I would assume. And then upstairs in the brewery, they had a killer record show. All of the heavy hitters in town were there. Some looking for records, some selling records. There were some nice pieces there. So I found some records and we're going to get into them right now. As soon as I walked through the door, I saw my good buddy Kevin from Kevin's Records, and he had this sitting on his rack. Kenny Burrell, Midnight Blue. Now this is that blue label with the white B. Yep. He had this for $10. It is incredibly clean. Let me open it for you. Sorry. Yeah, it's pretty spotless. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to buy this and do the Pepsi challenge against my Blue Note Classic Series vinyl. Now, for one, the cover of this is much thicker than this. I will say that right away. And as far as the sound quality goes, both very good. This is closer to that original Van Gelder sound, and this has that extended bass, which is nice, I guess, for fidelity purposes, but it makes the songs seem like they're a little slow. You know, it's kind of got that slow bass, that big, slow moving bass. as soon as you cut off some of that bass frequency, all of a sudden the band seems like it's cooking a lot hotter. Sound quality is very similar, and the pressing quality is just as good on this as it is on that. Now, obviously, this one is mint, and you can find one of these perfect all day long for $28. Paid $10 for this, and it's super clean. I wouldn't expect to pay that. Probably more, $20 to $30. But if you can find one that's very clean and you want to get something closer to that original Van Gelder sound, this is a good way to get there on the cheap. White or Black B Blue Note records are pretty good. Yeah, they're very good, as a matter of fact. Next, on the way to the show, I called Jeffrey Lee Puckett, and we were talking about things we were looking for, and I said, man, I really want to find that John Hartford Aeroplane record. It's been missing from my collection, and I really want it. It's got a legendary lineup: John Hartford, right? Vassar Clemens, Norman Blake, Tuck Taylor. It's killer. It's a killer record. Songs you might recognize. Turn your radio on. And it has this iconic cover. Hartford on the front. He's got his goggles on. Captain John here, looking cool as a mother. I chose this one on the Palm Tree label. Why? Because some of these Warner pressings from this period, the late 70s, 80s, are on that translucent super vinyl. Now, I don't know exactly which variant of the super vinyl it is, but I do know if you hold it up next to a light and it's clear, translucent black, it's probably on super vinyl. That was very common for Warner at this time, and lo and behold, it in fact is. Paid $9 for it. Thanks, Kevin. And it is clean as a pin. This thing is beautiful. Now, a word about John Hartford. He's a silly guy. Yes, he can play his ass off, but he'll also do some silly stuff on his records. And you might have some people from the other room saying, what the hell is that? And why is he doing that? He's just having fun, guys. But there's some wacky stuff on these John Hartford records. So be prepared for that. Otherwise, sonically, it's very good. The songs are amazing, and the playing is top notch. Not to mention, cool cover art. Yeah, super stoked to find that. Found it instantly. As soon as Jeffrey Lee walked in, he pointed at it and said, man, you already found it. I was like, yeah. That is the beauty of going to these pop-up record shows. Some of these vendors might have some stuff that it's tough to find just in the wild locally. Speaking of records that are tough to find in the wild locally, let's stay on that bluegrass tip. Tony Rice, California Autumn. Now, as you can see, we got this sweat-stained Tony Rice D28 here. A half-eaten sandwich, possibly a cup of coffee. Not a real great cover. There are 3 different covers for this record because sometimes you go into the studio, you're making a record, you make this tremendous piece of art, and then the cover, for whatever reason, is an afterthought. The third cover is like 3 shots of the guitar, and it is probably the best cover, but it is the latest of the pressings. So this is an earlier pressing on Rebel. Yeah, cool looking label there. And this record is incredible. Tony, obviously on guitar, Larry Rice on mandolin, Ricky Skaggs on mandolin, vocals, and fiddle, J.D. Crowe on banjo. J.D. Crowe on banjo, come on. Mike Aldridge and Jerry Douglas are sharing dobro duties. It's killer. There's a Beaumont Rag on here, a Scarborough Fair, California Autumn is on here, a nice red-haired boy, Mr. Poverty, a Larry Rice tune. Georgia on My Mind is on here. That's a very legendary cover from Tony. It is beautiful. This is expertly recorded and has incredible fidelity, like most Tony Rice records. These are hard to find and getting quite expensive. I paid $40 for this. It is super clean. very reputable vendor as well. Super stoked on that. Tony is the ultimate in bluegrass guitar. I saw this at the show and the cover was a little bit busted up, but the vinyl is very clean. It's a record I've been looking for. I Am the Blues, Willie Dixon. It's got this kind of bent up corner here. Unfortunate mishap. That said, only paid $9.99 for it, or as we all know, it's $10. And this is a collection of tunes that were previously released on Chess by Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf. You will know all these Willie Dixon tunes because they've all been covered to death by various artists. Willie Dixon wrote most of the best blues songs, like I Ain't Superstitious, You Shook Me, yep, we know that one, Little Red Rooster, Spoonful. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Willie Dixon, primarily a bass player, that needs to be pointed out, because Hubert Sumlin played all the guitar on these tracks pretty much when it was Howlin' Wolf, right? Willie Dixon was in that band as well. And then, of course, Muddy is handling some of that on his records. So Willie is playing bass on here as well. It's a great sounding record. It's from like 1970. We're all familiar with these Columbia 360 labeled records. This is very nice. If you see this record, definitely pick it up, especially if it's cheap. It's really good. And this is you know, Willie Dixon is really close to the source. I mean, nobody has been sampled more than Willie Dixon. Cream, Zeppelin, they all did it. Last but not least, a record that I have passed on numerous times for various reasons, mostly expense. I usually see this record around $60 to $80. It's not that rare. It was $40 and I just decided that it was time. The cover on these records usually shows somewhere because it is a fold-out cover. Hawkwind, Space Ritual, alive in Liverpool and London. This is a live show. It does have some overdubs. That said, it is a stoner space rock extravaganza, somewhere between, say, Sabbath and Floyd. Lemmy, of course, is on bass and sings on some of the tracks. Fantastic cover. It's like a 6-panel fold-out cover that's got some cool artwork on one side and some photographs on the other side with all the text and some cool just titles and stuff. Awesome record to have. Super psychedelic. Definitely precursor to all stoner rock and space rock things that are kind of heavy. So it's very Floydish, but if Floyd was a little more aggressive, I would say. The artwork is super on point. It's interesting to find that Lemmy went from this to Motorhead because they're not all that similar. That said, this is a fantastic record. It is a live performance, so the fidelity is, you know, what you would expect from the period and the situation. All in all, the pop-up was a success. I got some cool stuff and didn't spend a whole lot of money. I mean, these two records were $20. You throw this one in, $10, $30, $110. Not bad for a handful of great records. That's just one of the advantages to going to a pop-up record show. And until we meet again, that's right, folks. Bob out.